got no script planned, so I just thought I'd let Pete talk, really, and then maybe interject with one or two questions, and then you guys, if we got a bit more time, you can ask some questions as well. And then after an hour or so, we're going to have a little break, and then again, we're just going to see what happens. That's kind of a plan. So we're just going to begin, really, Pete, where it began with you, really.
Okay. Hi everyone, thank you for coming.
Hello.
My name is Pete Efford. I currently live in Coventry, but by my dulcet tones you might have noticed I'm from the West Country. So, I've had quite an eclectic life. I started in engineering. I've been a bit of an inventor. I did the security tagging system in PC World. Curries and Boots is one of mine. Lots of other things too. I had quite a few stolen by big corporates, as happens. I've currently got a factory in Swansea that makes one of my inventions, which are shampoos and soaps that don't need any water for washing people in their beds, albeit they're wet liquids, not dry powders and stuff. I've just given that to my eldest two children to release me to do more spiritual work. So my spiritual work has been a very interesting mix and journey, which I'm going to tell you about in a minute, with some quite amazing things happening. And I'm just at a point where I've written a book and it's time to launch myself, as it were, having kept my life under a bushel for quite some time due to work commitments and things and various companies that I've owned. So my childhood was pretty much the same as everybody else's. I've got two older brothers, a younger sister. My father was military. He was working on missiles and all sorts of top secret stuff, and wasn't there a great deal during my childhood. I was aware of spirit at a very early age, probably 3, something like that. I can remember saying to my mum, you know, like, who's that man stood behind you? You know, and door handles opening and doors opening on their own and that kind of thing. But really and I would go into trance at the dinner table quite frequently, which would result in my father smacking me around the head.
How old were you when that happened then, when you first went into trance around the dinner table? What happened?
5 or 6.
Wow.
I'd be in another world, I'd be eating my dinner and I'd have a fork halfway to my mouth and I'd gone. I'm off somewhere else.
No warning, just like that?
No, just gone. I'd be somewhere else with other people talking.
Wow.
My father would say, come back to earth. And then teenage years were the usual stuff, sort of a right mix of things, from full entities building from the floor. I stayed at this girl's house when I was about 18 after a party, and I was woken up about 4 o'clock in the morning with what I thought was cigarette smoke or an electrical fire. And it was over in the corner of the room and it was swirling in a circle on the floor. I was thinking, what the hell is that? And my first thoughts were it was a fire starting. So, you know, you go into that high alert mode when you're listening. The dog was growling on the end of the bed. I'm thinking, what's going on? And this thing grew into a full form. And it was a monk wearing a robe.
Wow.
And it looked at me and it went like that.
Was that the first time you'd seen something like that?
First solid form.
Flipping neck.
And it beckoned me like that.
Wow.
To be honest, I wasn't frightened. I was just, what the hell is that? You know, you're just kind of rubbing your eyes and thinking, what, is that real?
Wow.
And then it flew straight up, accelerated across the room at me, and just, I put my arms up because I thought it was going to hit me. The dog jumped off the bed out of the way, and I just kind of put my arms up and gone.
Just went straight through you?
Yeah, just...
Did you feel anything when it went through you?
No, not a thing. But I suppose probably darker side stuff, shall we say, and I've encountered quite a few over the years. Needless to say, I didn't go back.
Stumps the girl.
Do you think it was connected with the house, the girl, or just
With
you?
the girl.
Was it?
Yeah, because she told me later that other people, friends of hers who'd stayed over and stuff, were woken up during the night, being shaken awake and things like that.
Wow.
So she had quite an active poltergeist in there. And it obviously wasn't very happy.
Did you ever go back?
No.
We noticed that.
And then I did a diesel engine apprenticeship in mechanical engineering, and we stayed in this hostel things. I lived too far away, so I left home at 16, moved into this hostel, and allegedly someone had hanged themselves. So the rumours were about, and my mate found a master key that opened all the doors. So we were going through rifling furniture in the empty room, see if we could swap things for things we had.
Just the two of you.
Just the two of us.
Yeah.
And we opened this door, and my mate walked in. And as I went to go behind him, it was like this icy cold blast hit me in the face. And it
Did
went,
he feel that as well?
no, he was completely oblivious.
Wow.
And it went, get out.
Gee.
As I stepped in, and I literally grabbed hold of him, threw him out of the room, locked the door again behind us.
Wow.
We were
That
trespassing.
sent shivers down my spine.
Yeah,
You feel that, couldn't you?
it was a
Wow.
proper scary one.
What did you do with that? You can't leave that. When that happened, did you stay in the house?
We were living there. We were in rooms further down the corridor.
Flipping heck.
But yeah, but it was contained to that room. It wasn't wandering around the corridors or anything.
Wow.
But yeah, so I took it as it was a true rumour that someone did take their own life in there.
It's interesting that your mate never felt anything.
Not a thing, completely
So
oblivious.
you obviously tuned in from very, very early on then.
Yeah, I had another very strange experience, and I will state for the record, no drink or drugs were involved. I woke up 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was, and the room was full of luminous faces.
This is a home.
No, still in this hostel.
Okay,
The whole room was just full of faces, all looking at me, smiling, happy. I didn't feel any disconcertion, nothing. But I'm looking at these faces thinking, what the hell is this? And I couldn't fathom it. I'm rubbing my eyes, I'm looking, pinching myself, and I'm thinking, this is crazy. I don't know, I didn't recognise any of the faces, but I thought I had that feeling something special was happening, and I think, looking back, it was my guides and relatives.
All of them.
Load of them, yeah. I mean, a whole room full of faces.
Wow, flipping heck.
And I thought, how do I know if I'm dreaming this or not? So I thought, if I move my alarm clock across to the middle of the table from where it normally resides, if I wake up in the morning and it's moved still, I'll know. And it was. So I took it as, yeah, okay, that really happened.
Confirmation.
Yeah.
Would you say that was the first time then, really, apart from all the different things that you were kind of encountering, would you say that was the first time that you got some connection with guides or...
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I've been aware of spirit entities, but not physically seen them.
Mm.
So you'd be aware, oh, I really don't like that bit over there. And when we were kids, we went to places like Stonehenge, castles and things like that.
Did you sense things there as well?
Stonehenge in those days, because I'm an old fella now, you could actually touch the stones, they're not all fenced off. And I remember putting my hand on the stones, and I went back in time, and there was some drumming and some sort of ritual going on, and it frightened me, really frightened me. It was like a sacrifice was going to happen. And I was gone, I was in this other world, again, till my father grabbed hold of me to move us along. But yeah, that
What
was
did
quite
your dad
scary.
make of that then? So you kind of
He was
just
a
think about
complete
your...
non-believer. my
Really?
father.
So when you were eating your breakfast or whatever it is, you went into trance or Stonehenge, and you kind of had these episodes, what did he say?
Nothing. Not interested, not remotely on his radar. Just get on with it, sort of messing around.
Yeah.
But my mother's parents were both trance mediums,
Okay.
and they had a hotel in what's it called, Stockport, up north, and they would have, the maids would all be scared. Do you know? I don't know if you guys remember parents with the clay ducks on the wall. Everyone had them, didn't they? Apparently back then, but they would spin on the wall and frighten the maids to death. in this
Everybody's
hotel.
too young for any of that.
Yeah.
That was
But they would sit in trance, and my mother's got very few stories because it was all very secretive. But my grandfather was a fireman in the war, and they would hold the trances in the fire station boardroom. And there was one guy who was poo-pooing it all, saying it's all rubbish, and they had a boardroom table there that took 6 people to lift, and it levitated and pinned this guy in the corner of the room and wouldn't let him out. And they also had apports, they had fresh rose materialise in the middle of winter on the table. So they were doing some quite epic stuff, really.
And these were all firemen.
Yeah, and my grandmother,
Yeah,
she was the trance
okay,
medium.
yeah.
And we don't know to this day. One day they said to my mother, whatever happens, whatever you hear, do not come upstairs. And they stopped everything. They got frightened, they got spooked by something. And they put an end to it all.
Wow.
And my grandmother works with me now. She's usually the first one. If I go to a spiritualist church and I get a message from the medium, it's always my grandmother first.
Yeah, so she's definitely with you.
And she works with me in the trance room situation. So growing up, then what happened next? I had some guy in the pub, random drunk, who would give people readings at the bar.
Might be related to one of yours, James.
Quite possibly my dad.
You see, James, you give me dirty looks, it's back to that security tip.
And he would randomly start giving people a reading at the bar, and he's always getting thrown out of pubs and shouted at and stuff. And he said to me, he said, you're a medium, you need to come and train.
So up to that point, you were kind of just like, what were you thinking up to that point?
Nothing really, it just happened. I wasn't not consciously aware or pursuing it in any way, shape or form.
Yeah, okay.
And I was 18 then. And he came down, and him and his wife were mediums, and they started trying to train me, but I was like hair down to here, motorbikes, leather jackets. This is not my world, and I left. But I did do my very first message there in this mobile home thing that he lived in.
Right. So you still, even at that stage, felt no pull?
No pull to develop whatsoever. It's just things happened.
Yeah.
And then, there's lots of little things along the way, but I won't bore you with those. But the first major thing that happened to me, my mother came home very excitedly. She had no gift at all. My mother skipped a generation. And she came home very excitedly and said she joined this group in Bristol, and the medium's face changed into other people's faces. She said, "You've got to see this." And I was like, "What?" Definitely got to see that. So we went along, my wife and I at the time, and we were in a room a little bit like this, and the medium was sat here, and I was right on one end. And I'm struggling, and he had a very, very dim red light shining on him, and I was sat there thinking, "Oh, this is bloody red. Can't see a damn thing." I was really at the point of nodding off to sleep. I was bored to tears.
Yeah.
And then the guy turned and he looked me dead in the eye, and his face morphed into my late father's face.
Wow.
And it was unequivocal, that was my father looking at me. And then he smiled at me, and all my hair stood on end. And I thought, wow. And I drove home, and this was in Bristol, and I was living in Gloucestershire. I drove home, and it felt like my dad was sat in the back seat all the way home. And when I got back to the house, the last thing he gave me before he passed was an old-fashioned cassette tape recorder. And I put it away in a cupboard. I couldn't even tell you where it was. And when I got home, it's in the middle of the front room floor with the lid open, and someone had pressed play and record, and the wheels were going round.
Wow.
There's no tape in it. And again, it was one of those hair-raising, like, wow, someone's trying to get my attention.
Yeah. And especially being your dad.
And being my dad's, yeah.
Like a non-believer.
The total non-believer.
Like,
you couldn't be more of a non-believer.
Yeah.
He would go and stay in haunted hotels for a laugh.
To disbelieve it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So that really freaked me out. And I went to bed, and about 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I thought I had burglars. The noise in the house was deafening. I ran downstairs, and someone had turned the TV on and turned the volume up full, and was just skipping through the channels.
Someone.
Something.
Wow. So they're in.
I'm assuming my father.
Yeah. Wow.
But again, it was another. I thought, wow, okay, you've got my attention now. I'm going to join that group in Bristol. So I did. So I started sitting, and it was only a few weeks before it started happening to me. So I sat there, and the guy teaching it, nice guy, but didn't have a clue about mediumship, to be honest. He was trying to teach us how to use our senses more. And he'd say, okay, think of a colour, and then what does it mean to you? And it's all brand new, like, what does that mean? So, orange, okay, glass of orange juice. I was brought to tears again.
Yeah.
And I had a long day, and it was in the winter, and the heating was too hot. And you know that point where you're getting a bit drowsy and you start to go a little bit. And I sat there, and all of a sudden, my arms started being moved by an invisible force.
So you didn't invite anything. You just
No,
you're
it
just
just
sitting there
happened.
nodding off to sleep, bored,
Yeah.
and then that begins to happen.
You know when you're a kid, you stand in the doorway and you press the back of your hands on the door frame, and then when you walk out, your arms go. If you haven't done
No,
that,
but we're all going to try that. You know, every single one of us are going to try that later.
Have you done that before? do it now on that doorway.
My arms do lift. Well,
Seriously, do it now. 30 seconds, right? Open that door. Right.
Nikki's arms do go up though, I tell you now.
Just press your arms on the back of the door for 30 seconds.
but you've been framed.
Yeah. You're on camera's fine. You're counting, right?
No, I'll follow you where.
Yeah, mistake number one.
Are we back there?
That feels like about 30 seconds, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No.
And just walk out, just relax your arms. And just put them both sides. Nothing?
No,
Do you not feel the pressure?
no.
But genuinely, we know
But
what you
I
mean.
do know,
Yeah.
yeah.
We know what you mean. But your arms always go up like that, don't you? Do all this, don't you, when you're
Yeah.
doing yeah.
Okay. You probably didn't press hard enough. But if you press quite hard on the door frame,
Yeah.
when you walk out, your muscles contract. And it
Yeah.
feels like someone's moving your arms up. It was that same sort of force.
Yeah.
Started moving my arms, but not just up, all over the place. Right? And I could have stopped it, but I let it go because it had these waves of energy going through me, like undulating through me, and it felt like pure love. It was just an amazing feeling.
Wow.
And my arms were like I'm an epileptic conductor in an orchestra, going round all over the place. And I could hear other people nudging and pointing and saying, "What's he doing?"
That's the orange juice.
I'm gonna fit, I'm alright. And that was the very first thing. And then it progressed from there as the weeks went by.
So when that settled down, so you've had the first kind of session really with this, this kind of learning from this man or whatever, but you kind of just, something's happened to you.
Yeah.
From that, you just go home and ignore it, or does it? Or
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it's something different
Yeah.
and something amazing was happening, but you can't really tell anyone,
Yeah.
especially in my engineering world at the time. So it's a bit of a, like, wow, what was that? I want more, I want to know more, I want to know. I'm an engineer.
Yeah.
I did mechanical engineering, I did electrical electronic engineering, I did plastic engineering, and then I got into sales and marketing. I'm very logical, cause and effect. I want to know why things happen, and we'll get on a little bit later. So I did my own quantum physics experiments in entanglement theory. That's another story in a minute. Right?
Yeah, right.
So I want to know why, and if something's happening, then I want to understand it, and I want to know more and why. So I joined this group, and these things started happening. And then it progressed to, I went really deep. They do like a meditation. I went really deep into it, and all of a sudden I'm in a car crash. And I got mangled up in the car, and I felt like I had my neck broken. I didn't have any of the pain, just mangled up in it, and felt really constricted. And I knew who I was with, which woman this was coming through for.
So this was within a circle.
Within a circle, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd said to this lady, I've just been through all this. I couldn't speak at the time. I'd been through all this feeling, and I said to her, I really feel strongly that this is for you somehow. And she said, yeah, my husband died in a car crash.
Wow.
And that was, everything I described was what happened to him, with the neck getting broken and everything else. And weird things happened, like I was actually on horseback with a lance, Mongol times. And I was riding this horse, like I'm sat in a chair, giving it the whole lot. And I got lanced off this horse, and I felt it go right through me and lift me out the saddle.
Jeez.
And it was as real can be. And then the next major thing that happened was I went deeper and deeper and deeper, and I could feel this energy come down to blend. And when spirit energy blends with me, it's a little bit like if you get two magnets and you turn one round, so you've got that opposing force where you can't push them together. It's like a blanket of that comes over me, that invisible energy feeling, like a pressure. I mean, I could feel this pressure coming in, and I was going really deep. And then I felt my mouth filling up with mud and water. I'm spitting on this guy's carpet. And I'm going down and down and down. And then as he came through, he burst through and spoke through me, and he went, "Mum!" And opened my eyes and looked at this woman, and the whole place all jumped out of the skin, so you can imagine. And she went, "Yes, Ernest." She knew exactly who it was because I transfigured into him as well. And then he came through and begged his mother's forgiveness and explained it was an accident and he hadn't meant to jump. He slipped, and he told us a story where he was trying to scare his girlfriend, and he'd climbed up on the wall of Clifton Suspension Bridge, and she couldn't bear to watch and had turned her back. As he went to climb down, he slipped, silent, gone. And he came through to apologise for all the upset he'd caused. And for the first time, I had tears pouring down my face.
Were you aware of
I'm
that?
totally aware.
Yeah.
I'm on the inside.
Yeah.
I can hear everything. But it's like, the best way I can describe it is if you go to sit in your kitchen with your eyes shut and you've got the TV on in the front room, but it's your voice coming out of the TV.
Wow.
But you don't know what you're going to say next because it's not your thoughts. And you don't remember it very well because it's not your thoughts. But if someone says to you, "Oh yeah, you said that," then you remember it. It was hard to recall at the end
Yeah.
of the session.
What was the impact on his mum?
Oh, she was actually very grateful and relieved because she thought he'd committed suicide
Yeah.
and it had been an accident. Also, to know what had happened, I think was a relief for her. The whole rest of the room were crying their eyes out. But the weird thing for me was I had tears pouring down my face and didn't feel any of the emotion. I just had a physical reaction to his energy, which was really strange to have tears pouring down your face but not feel it. And I'm aware now, which I wasn't aware then, that spirit tears tend to come out the side of your eyes rather than out your tear ducts, which is quite a weird thing.
Never heard that before.
I've seen it and witnessed it and felt it several times myself. It seems to be true. So that was quite a shocker. And then I had a woman in the same group who got very jealous of my encounters, and she went into trance and started saying derogatory remarks and using swear words
About you?
about me. And I was like, this doesn't sound very spiritual. To me, go forth and multiply and all that. And I said to the guy who was running the circle, I'm not happy with that, you know, she's clearly just having a pop at me for her own reasons, whatever. And he said, well, kind of, yeah, I agree, but she's been here a long time and she was here before you. And I said, don't worry. And almost immediately, one of my brothers said to me, oh, he said, I was chatting to Dave at work and his missus is a medium and they're looking for new sitters in Gloucester right near you.
It was meant to be.
So it all moved naturally for me. But before I went, one of the women in the circle went to see Colin Fry at Cardiff, and she's partially sighted. And she asked if they could be sat right at the front, and they sat her behind a pillow in the corner. So she wasn't very happy, and she complained after, and we got a personal invite to go down to his house to sit. Which I thought fantastic. So we had a Sunday afternoon trip down to Eastbourne, and I had no idea what was going to happen. We just had this invitation. And we went into some giant garden shed that he called his church. And they plunged us into pitch dark and warned us that we all had to sing loudly and we had to sit and not move and no one could put their arms out and all these rules and regs. And they cable tied him into a chair.
Colin Fry?
Yeah. Right. And I had no idea what was going to happen next. And they invited me to inspect the cable ties, which I did. And I said, well, yeah, they're cable ties. And well, I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm not looking at what they're supposed to do other than he's definitely got his hands on the arms and the cable ties. What I did notice was the arms were flat wood tops on a round spindle, which if you're sceptical would be very easy to lift off the spindle and slide off.
Yeah.
Anyway, we went on to have what was either a spectacular show or the most amazing mediumship I've ever seen.
Which do you think it was?
I think it was a show, personally. We had trumpets flying around the room. We had to sing very loudly. There were voices seemingly coming out of thin air. I was sat on the end of the row, and I jumped out of my skin when a big luminous hand dabbed me up the arm.
Yeah.
But when I looked at it, I could see the wool of the glove. So I was a little sceptical after
Why
that.
do you think he would do that? If that was kind of what it was, a show, why do you think? Because I heard like a couple of things about Colin Fry, and he was a good medium in his own right. And so, why do you think that was?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you can reach a point where the pressure to perform can outweigh the
ability.
environment and maybe the preparation time, etc. But all my gut instincts were saying this was a show.
Yeah.
And then there was a huge crash at the end, and he'd supposed to have been dematerialised from behind his cabinet into the on stage in front of the cabinet, and I was the only one who was sat there going, none of this. I'm not feeling any of that energy for that to happen.
Yeah.
But that's my personal
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah. So you went with feel rather than what you
Yeah.
saw. I agree.
Trust your instincts. And there's another story later on I'll tell you about
Okay.
with a friend of Colin Fry's.
Yeah.
Please
Please do, carry on.
So I left that group and I started then in a circle in Gloucester, and it was a home development circle again. And I continued practicing my trance, and you reach a point where there's only so many relatives for the same set of people that you can bring through. But it was definitely getting stronger, and I was transfiguring into different people's relatives. And I joined another group after a few years, a development group where the woman running it was teaching mediumship, platform mediumship. She's done a little bit of everything. One bit I need to tell you first. In the Gloucester group, normally when you get that trance feeling with the magnets and things, you get this wave of energy comes over you, and it's beautiful, it's lovely. One day we sat there, and this wave of energy was on epic proportions. I felt all my arms started to hum and vibrate, and it was like 10 times, maybe 100 times more powerful coming in, and I could hear the people in the room saying, "Oh my God, his skin's starting to glow in the dark." I'm thinking, really?
Back to the glove.
The engineer in me's going, "Yeah, really, he must have left the light on somewhere." And it came through, and it was just immensely powerful. I felt like I was 20 foot tall, made of solid concrete, and the power coming through these waves of energy. I was very, very humbled. And it opened my eyes and looked around the room, and they were literally doing like that. So it looked right into your soul. And no one spoke at the end. And one person said, "Was that what I think it was?" And someone else said, "Yeah." And it took me a while to work out what this was. All I knew was it was absolutely beautiful. And the love and energy waves going through me were phenomenal. And then I joined this other group, still in Gloucestershire. And the lady teaching that was doing a little bit of everything and took me right back to basics. We were doing psychic art, we were doing psychometry, we were practicing giving messages, we were doing a bit of trance, we were doing a little bit of everything basically. And she was very much a public performer in the churches, and she enjoyed taking fledglings out and getting them going. And I'd done everything except the public bit. I got the psychometry, so she'd do things like say, "Right, everyone bring in a photograph in a sealed envelope." And you couldn't tell whose envelope. She'd take them at the door, so you couldn't even see what envelope anybody had, you know. It could be a picture of anything. It could be a duck, you know, the Eiffel Tower, anything you want. So I got this envelope and I held it and I drew a picture of what I saw in my head. And I drew what I thought was a kitchen. I drew a door, I drew a table. I drew a woman sat at the table with 2 children in descending order. And then for some apparent reason I drew a car at the bottom. And then you had to name who you thought had brought the photograph, and then you had to give a message to them, which I did. And I got the right person, the message was pertinent, and when I took the photograph out of the envelope, it was actually a walled garden, but the table was right, the woman was right with the two kids in the right order, and the door was actually a gate in the walled garden in the right place in the drawing. I thought, okay, I've done everything in this circle now and I'm bored.
Just back to that, when you got that energy, and it was like the most amazing energy that you've ever felt. What did the other people see, and what did they feel from you?
I'll come back to that because it gets confirmed later in the journey. So I'm saying to my spirit team, "What? I'm bored now. Give me something new, move me on." And every time I tried to join another circle, it just didn't happen. And I kept saying, "You haven't learned your lessons yet." What? The only thing I haven't done is the public mediumship. I swore to God I'm never going to do that. And the woman teaching said, "Yes, you will. Yes, you will." Anyway, I thought, I'm stuck. I've been there like nearly 2 years. I want to do something new. I thought, okay, the only thing I haven't done is this pleasure night. So I went and did it. I was so nervous, I cannot tell you. I wouldn't get up unless I had the next 3 messages in my head stored. But it all went really, really well. Complex messages. I thought, okay. And then I started pushing myself a little bit. And then then I got moved on to another group. But it was at that group when we were doing a big meditation, and she did brilliant meditations in fairness, that powerful energy came in again. And this wave came through me and I lit up and it opened my eyes and it looked around the room, but everyone was in meditation except the teacher. So I looked around the room, and when it looked at her, again, she nearly fell off a chair. And she announced to the whole room, "If anyone notices Peter's eyes have gone completely black, don't panic, it's just his angel with him." And I thought, stupid. Angel, God. Angel. Well, angels for me at that point were a bit too pink and fluffy. I've been in these groups where people go, "Oh, there's an angel in the corner." And I'm like, "Oh, Lord, if there's an angel in the corner, I'm sure we'll feel it." And it wasn't really on the radar. Anyway, happened a couple of times in there. And then I joined a group in Hereford that was sitting just for trance, which was my main interest. And I went over there, and the woman, there was a husband-wife couple running it, and the lady would sing, but channeled singing. And it was the weird, she had a beautiful voice, but it was the weirdest, it was like a cross between Red Indian chanting and some sort of alien wailing noise. Nothing like I'd ever heard before, but boy, oh boy, did it take you off deep. And I'm sat there, and all of a sudden this massive wave of energy came in again, all my arms come in, and it stood me up and put my arms out. And I opened my eyes and looked down at this guy who was running the circle. And he went back in his chair, he said, "Oh my God, I've never seen anyone channel an angel before." And he said to me, "What's your name?" And his voice came out of me and it went, "Azrael." Now I'd never heard of it. I'm going, "What's that? Ezekiel? What is that?" Never heard of it. I've never studied the angel things. At this point, still not believing in angels, right? Amazing power though, just the waves. And afterwards, the sweat, the heat that you give off is phenomenal. So I invited another friend of mine from Gloucester. She was from the old circle I used to sit in, and she'd got out doing the platform, and we were both young fledglings on the circuit. So I said to her, "Hey man, come over to this place in Hereford." So she came over. We sat there, happened again, all this energy. When it finished, she wouldn't look at me and she wouldn't speak to me. What's the bloody matter with her? To me, it's amazing. She was like, in the car, yes, no, drove home, and never spoke to me again. Freaky, weird, right? This is about a 4-year period, this part of the story, okay? So I joined another group in Cheltenham.
So she never spoke to you again, ever?
Done. Oh, she did later when we found out.
Okay,
At that point, didn't want nothing. Cut me off completely, right? And I couldn't understand it at all. Anyway, I joined Carol Green in Cheltenham. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. She's a very, very good teacher.
Yeah.
And she would run trance weekends, and she brought down her teacher from London. And we're doing this exercise where we had to do, we went off into your meditation, and then you'd ask your gatekeeper, your guardian angel, whatever you call it, to draw in really close to you, and then ask them to step away. Then ask them to come in close, then ask them to step away. And all of a sudden you really could feel this energy shift. And I was like, wow, I can really, really feel this. And then for the first time in my life at that point, I had a full vision of this 10, 12 foot angel, completely black. And I panicked, because all the movies.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this? I thought, well, hang on, don't panic. How do I feel? And I thought, I feel actually completely relaxed and safe. Now, I was taught when you do trance that if something's coming through that you're not quite sure of, you ask God to send down a beam of light and ask it to stand in it. And if it won't stand in it, you shut down. So I asked this creature to stand in it. And he laughed at me and went and stood in it. Ah. So I thought, okay, I'm safe. Then he came and stood behind me and he wrapped his wings around me like that.
Wow.
And I had that amazing undulating waves of pure love going through me
So you
again.
recognised it as the
Same energy.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, okay. And I was really in this space, and the buggers called me back, didn't they? Because they were all coming back to the room, and they were going, Peter, Peter. And I'm like, oh, shut up. I don't want to come back.
Stay there.
Yeah, I wanted to stay there. It was amazing. Still didn't believe in angels at this point. Now, another, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months, whatever it was, we were practicing mediumship for doing the church platform. And this little Irish woman went off into trance, and she gave me a proper telling off and said I needed to start my own trance circle and that my angel's waiting to work with me. Oh, there he is again, this bloody angel thing. I was starting to get frustrated, so I thought, right, I've got to get to the bottom of this. I'll Google it when I get home. So I was thinking, what's that name? Ezekiel. So I got home, so I typed in Archangel AZ and it auto-filled Azrael. And I looked at it and I stopped in my tracks. I thought, that's the name that came out of my mouth. I'd forgotten it. I clicked the link and it said, oldest of the angels, also known as the angel of death because he takes spirits across to the other side, is the closest to God, commonly works with mediums, is completely black. And everything I read, I was getting, it's like,
Just confirmation.
couldn't believe it. It was like all those last 4 years all came onto one page. And I phoned up.
What a moment that must have been.
It was amazing. It was
Yeah.
literally like an electric shock.
Yeah.
Every bit I wrote, every bit I read. And I phoned up the woman who wouldn't speak to me anymore. And I said, don't hang up. And I told her what I just discovered.
Yeah.
And she said, oh, thank God for that. She said, all I saw was black feathers. And I thought it must be demonic. That's why I wouldn't speak to you.
Scared her.
So, yeah, didn't trust her senses. So I thought, okay, maybe this is real.
Yeah. What an amazing experience that must have been.
So I had a big tattoo done across my back of what I saw.
Right, let's show everybody.
Yeah. I got a photograph. You're safe.
Amazing.
I haven't got my bra on today.
So from that, you've got confirmation.
So now I've got this knowledge, if you like, that there's a very powerful entity with me.
Yeah.
And I'd also been doing a lot of house clearance work, you know, going into haunted houses. And I was thinking, this is really easy. Just go in and say, can you please come and take away whatever's here? And it happens.
Yeah.
I thought, this is too easy. And of course, didn't realise I've got an archangel coming and taking them away. And I went to some pretty horrendous places. Some of them, this one house that sticks in my mind. It was a young couple, moved in, signed the lease, the girl signed the lease. And then they had mayhem, footsteps hammering up and down the stairs, cupboard doors opening and slamming, plates and saucers flying across the room, smashing on the wall. I mean, proper poltergeist activity going on. My two friends from the Gloucester Circle went in and made it 10 times worse. So they said, can you come with us? And I'm like, okay, well, what the hell are we going into?
Why did they make it 10 times worse?
Well, they moved on an old man
Yeah.
who was actually the girl's grandfather who was trying to stop it.
Okay.
And they took him away and let these two things have their run, basically. But yeah, I walked in and a plate flew across the room and just smashed on the wall just above my head.
Jeez.
The girl was so terrified in there. The boyfriend moved out, left her. Hero. So her mum moved in, so she wouldn't be on her own. But she told me she would sit in the bath and she would wedge a chair under the bathroom door so that she didn't feel trapped in there. And she could look out over the side of the bath across the corridor landing into the bedroom, and all the wardrobe doors were all open and shut in.
Flipping heck.
Yeah, it's proper activity going on.
Were you scared when you went in?
No, because I'd done a few
Yeah.
and they all just got fixed
Yeah.
effortlessly,
Yeah.
which I didn't understand until I'd understood this angel with me.
Yeah.
And we went in and a plate smashed on the wall. I thought, oh, hello. Went upstairs and we basically held hands and did a seance and asked our guys to bring all the light in. Whilst that's happening, I'm seeing a vision. And I taught Kung Fu and kickboxing for about 15 years. I'm having a full-on fight with these two in my head. I'm doing jumping, spinning kicks and all this. And I'm having a fight and I'm seeing the walls running with blood and they're trying to scare me, basically.
Well, that would have done it for me, I can tell you. Yeah. I'd have been with a boyfriend.
Is that a good thing?
Carry on.
And they went, they took them away.
Wow.
And they went and there was peace returned.
Thank God you found you.
The weirdest one though, we got called out to a house in Ledbury and they would have random things rot in the house. Like one kitchen cupboard. They come down for breakfast and the whole thing was soggy and all the tins and stuff inside had just gone straight through and the whole thing collapsed. They'd replace it and it'd be absolutely fine. Or one radiator overnight all the paint would fall off and it'd be bright orange or rust. And underneath their bed, they suddenly felt, what's that damp smell? And looked under the bed and it was 2 inches of green foliage in a perfect rectangle under the bed. Weird random things. And that was quite an unpleasant entity in there. We walked in and the process that we do when we're doing a house clearance is you always go with 2 people. So that because you can get fooled on your own and misled or frightened. So you sit outside the house and you kind of scan all the rooms mentally to go, what's in there? And then when you get in, you have a bit of a chat with the family, then you split up and you tour the house and then you compare notes. What did you sense in which room? So we just got to the split up part and Carol had gone off upstairs and I was in the kitchen and there was a back door and a downstairs loo. And where I was stood in the kitchen was raised a little bit. So I was stood in the kitchen and I'm looking across the corridor and there's a full-length mirror in the downstairs loo. And I caught my own reflection in there. And this entity came rushing right up into my face. It was almost pushing me backwards. And it only made my reflection change into this demonic-looking creature. So I said, very good. What else can you do? And
That's not what I would have said.
so, and again, we did a bit of seance in there, calling an oil out, and we seal the house. It's important to ask the angels to put gold bands around the house and seal it so it can't come back in both directions.
Why do you think they're attached to certain people and places then? Have you come to a conclusion?
That one had a river under the house, and as you know, water's a conductor of spiritual energy.
Good and bad.
Good and bad. But what starts it is another interesting question I don't know the answer to. And poltergeists particularly seem to be around someone who's going high anxiety stuff. Often teenagers. You usually find if you take one person out of the equation, it all stops. But it's identifying which person it is. It's usually latching on, and because they use your energy to create the effects. That's something I've noticed anyway.
Interesting, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
There's someone with high anxiety on a different level, neurochemically wise, really.
Yeah, because we're all, at the end of the day, we're all atoms and molecules and we give off a vibrational energy, and it's that vibrational energy that...
I wonder how much part of that then is the anxiety and how much part is spirit.
Yeah, because it's negative energy.
Yeah, exactly.
And You know, malevolent spirit can use that, I think. We've had, I'm cutting across the story a little bit, but we've had some very interesting discussions. When I do deep trance work, we connect with a group of spirits we call the collective, who are highly evolved, and we record all the sessions. We've had some amazing discussions on energy, timelines, things like if you reincarnate, at what point does the spirit join the baby? Is it at conception? Is it during the pregnancy? Is it after the pregnancy? Does it vary? What happens when it's stillborn? And we record all those kind of sessions.
Seen on your website, a couple of those interviews, is that right? On the website?
Yeah. We had a really interesting one on angels, jinns and elementals, different vibrational creatures.
Right.
And one of the things that really blew my mind on that particular talk, they were talking about our dimension that we live in here is at a certain frequency, like a radio station. And you can have higher vibrational creatures that you might call angels, and there's different levels of angels, which would vibrate at a higher frequency, like moving up the radio station a couple. But you can also go down the radio station a couple and have lower level creatures. But they're all in different dimensions. And there's a discussion, you can go to my website, there's a original recording on there. And you can get portals between the two where creatures can pop up in a dimension they're not supposed to be in if there's a negative energy, a draw. Like a cold spot on the stairs sometimes can be a portal where negative energy is being drawing the positive energy away from it. And at the end of the day, it's physics. It's like electricity or water. You know, if you're vibrating at a level, let's say you're a barrel of water 10 foot in the air, and there's a creature that's a foot off the ground, and you're connected with the pipe, which way is the water going to go? It's going to go downhill, isn't it? And conversely, if you've got an angel who's 25 foot up in the air with a tower of water, and you're connecting to it, it's going to raise your energy. Yeah, and like electricity, if you've got 0 volts and 240 volts, and you connect to it, the 240 volt wants to get to the 0 volts. So the voltage will go up at the earth point. So it's very much like that energy, quantum physics at the end of the day. So when you connect with a higher being, you'll feel raised, you'll feel amazing as your energy and vibration goes up. Conversely, if it's a lower level creature or something a bit naughty, you might get that sinking feeling of dread as your energy starts to get depleted and drained. And one of the things they told us that blew my mind was that your gatekeeper, your spirit guide, your main one, the one that's with you for the whole journey, they'll go and get a lower level creature and stand it in your auric field to warn you of an impending danger. So you'll suddenly get that feeling of dread, that feeling of sinking, because there's a car hurtling around the corner in front of you. And then they take it away again. And that kind of blew my mind a little bit, because you don't think of things.
I mean, that is when you quantify that really, so it's not just your thoughts, it's an energy. So you're responding to the energy, not just the thought alone.
Yeah, we're all energy at the end of the day, aren't we? I mean, if you get the microphone. You
had a similar story, didn't you, Jason, in a car?
Very much, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to quickly share that when you were in the queue in the car?
Well, yeah, what happened with myself, like I was discussing in the group the other day, we were going to see my parents. That's the one? We were going to see my parents, and they live in Liverpool, and I'm living in Nottingham, and we go on the M57. We always branch off onto the A57, which has got 3 lanes, right? And on this particular day, we were in the middle lane, 60, 70 miles an hour, a set of traffic lights. And at the last split second, I decided to go in the right lane, to turn right, to go and buy my mum a box of chocolates. And as we stopped...
You bought a box of chocolates in your life?
Never bought a chocolate. Like, you know, it was just a split second. And we pulled into right-hand lane. Lights are on red. I look in the mirror, you know, because you're conscious of what's behind you. And I said to my wife, we've got the children in the car who were like 12 months, 1 year olds in car seats in the back. I looked in the mirror, I said to my wife, that car's not slowing down. Next minute, smash, it hit the car which parked at the side of us. knocked it forward, the car spun round, the lady in the car didn't have a seatbelt on, her head was smashed through the windscreen, and they were in a bad way. And we jumped out the car, my wife phoned the ambulance, I ran over, helped them, and it all got resolved. But a split second, that could have been us,
And the thought,
you know.
How many other people here have had a similar coincidence? Clinky dink, that isn't a coincidence where you feel you were protected or guided, yeah?
just that thought.
Everyone?
Yeah.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So from that then, where was the transition into the healing and the
Okay,
doctor? And
get to that in a minute, it's a bit more, yeah.
yeah.
So, in the height of all this transfer going on, so after I got told off by the little ginger woman for not starting my own trance circle, I did. And at the time, my works premises was a big old mill that was a couple of 100 years old.
Did you turn that off, Stu?
Nah,
No.
we're good.
Yeah, it's still recording, yeah?
Yeah.
Sorry.
And things started stepping up a bit. Then I blacked the room out, made a cabinet in a corner, and I put LED red lights inside on a dimmer switch so they were controllable. And we got a group of people sitting every week. And we connected with this collective group of spirits, and we started recording all the sessions. And it went really well. I was transfiguring into people's relatives, which is very evidential if you then let them jump in and talk through you as well, so you can see them and hear. I'll never forget this one girl who came as a guest, and she says her guide is Tesla. And I'd never met her before, didn't know anything about her. And first of all, her grandfather came and I transfigured her into him. And then I'm going like that to her. I had no idea why they're moving my arm like that. But apparently he had a finger shot off in the wall, and it was that one. And then he started talking about a lighthouse. No clue, you know, you're just a passenger, aren't you? You just hear it like coming out of the TV when you sat in the kitchen, talking about this lighthouse, and it was in answer to a question she'd been mentally asking. And she told me afterwards she used to live next door to a lighthouse, and she'd been asking about turning on and off your spiritual gift. And he was explaining it's like the light in a lighthouse, just because it's gone around the other side and you can't see it, hasn't turned it off. It's there ready to come around anytime you want to focus on it, basically. So it was a good analogy, and it tied in with it. Sorry?
What a metaphor that is, really.
Yeah.
What a learning.
And another lad in there, his grandfather came in, and my voice changed into his grandfather, and I transfigured him so you could see him. And he started shouting, "Marshall, Marshall," at this lad. I didn't know this guy's dad was called Marshall. And then he started talking about Vegas. And he did a warning, a stern warning, and he said, "Beware of the bear." Right? And they all fell about laughing because it sounds so ludicrous thing to say, "Beware of the bear." And they're all laughing, and I've got the recordings of all of this, by the way. And he went, no. He said, "This is not a joke." He said, "Man wearing a suit." Right? And left it at that. And he went. Now, the lad in question, what we didn't know was he was off on a stag weekend in 2 weeks to Vegas. And when he got there, they came out of this nightclub, and two guys came running past in Yogi Bear suits. And two of his mates went to run after them, and he grabbed them and he went, no, beware the bear. And they stopped, and then two cops came running around the corner with guns drawn, chasing them. And if they'd gone, they'd have been in the middle
What a premonition.
between the two lots. And he used to work at Cheltenham Racecourse, pulling the pints. And a horse came up called Beware the Bear. So he put a bet on it, it won.
There you go. Two-way that one, isn't it?
Yeah. So we were having some quite amazing stuff going on. We started getting direct voice. We had voices coming out of thin air. Again, I got the recordings. The very first one, we were a bit West Country down there. The very first one was this lady with a real BBC voice. And you can hear her say, "Hello." And then you can hear the people going, "Did someone just say hello?" And his voice goes, "Hello." Again, but didn't get into full flow. But it happened a few times with odd words being thrown in from nowhere. We had a bag of little quartz crystals that we'd emptied them out, put the bag down and put the quartz crystals on the top. And at the end of the session, when we put the lights on, they were alive. They were all moving like they were worms. They were wriggling about on this bag, and everyone could see it with the lights on. That was quite an amazing moment. And people in the room, because the audience is in the dark, basically, I'm the only one lit up, so I don't know anyone sat. And sometimes they would communicate with hand gestures, because the spirit coming in to communicate from me, through me, has to control me with their mind. When you think about what they got to do, they've got to try and produce ectoplasm out of me to build as a misty mask over my face. So all my features disappear, and then it remolds into the spirit's face, and it's clear. And then they've got, with their thoughts, try and tell me what to say, which is quite a task. So not all of them could speak. They could seem to all be able to transfigure. And we did an experiment, we called it Relatives on Demand, where we would say, right, everyone's going to get a turn, and we'll do one a week, and like if it's your turn next week, think of a relative, don't tell anyone, think of a relative, and when you come next week, we'll get to the point where we'll go, right, it's your turn, ask them to come in, but not by name. So just go, can you come forward, please? And they needed the voice to connect. And every single time, the relative came through and showed themselves. But they couldn't all speak. I had quite a famous medium in Gloucestershire come to sit with me, and she worked for the royal family. She'd have to carve the little flags, pick her up and take her off for the day, and tell them where the treasure's buried, that kind of stuff. And she came in and she swears like a trooper, right? Swears like a sailor. And she came in and she was going, Mr. Redford, this better be beeping good. I'm going, beep, tell it, this better be beeping good. Anyway, I said, look, it is what it is. And her mum came through. And I transfigured into her mum, but her mum hadn't learned to speak through me yet. So what I didn't know was she was telepathically saying, okay, I can see you, but prove it's you. You could be some demonic force for all she knows, masquerading as her mum. So prove it's you. So firstly, her mum pointed to her, and then pointed to herself, and then she went like that to symbolise when you were a child. And she picked her up and put her on her knee, and she started playing, here's the church, here's the steeple. And all you can hear is this woman going, like, when she's seeing all this going on. And the next thing she did was, she drew a necklace on me, and a heart, and then she opened the locket, and she pointed to the woman and pointed inside, and she pointed to me and pointed inside, and then shut it again. And she told us afterwards, when her mum died, her husband bought a heart-shaped locket and put a photograph in, and she had it on. She got it out and showed us. And also, as a child, that was her favourite game. She spent hours sat on her mum's knee playing Here's the Church, Here's the Steeple.
What a confirmation that was.
So no words, non-verbal communication, but good evidence along the way. But probably the most epic, I would call it that, experience. I went into my office one morning and sat on my computer, started working at an internet company, those days. Started working, and out of the blue, completely randomly, I need to buy a Mitsubishi Shogun, a metallic blue one. Completely random, right? Had a very nice car at the time, did not need one, did not want one, but I was suddenly so overwhelmed with the urge to buy a Mitsubishi Shogun. I'm on Auto Trader, I'm looking through. There it is, it's jumping off the screen at me. That's the one I want. Where is it? London. I thought, I'm in Gloucestershire. I thought, oh, hang on, I'm going to London on business in a few days. I wonder how close it is. What an amazing coincidence, it's just round the corner from where I'm going. So I phoned up, chatted to the woman, Avril, made an appointment, drove it to London, business first, drove round there. When I got out of the car, reality hit me. I thought, I've lost my mind. There's a kangaroo loose in the upper paddock. I've gone bonkers.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want a Mitsubishi Shogun, and I'm very confused, very, very confused. But it's too late. The woman's come out of the house, she's walking down the drive. Hello, and I'm thinking, oh God.
I don't really want one.
I'm going to have to pretend to look around this car now. I'm going to look a right lunatic. So I'm looking around this car, and as I say, very, very confused. I thought, well, I'll just make an excuse and go home. So I said I got a few more to see, and I don't want to make a decision yet, and made some waffle up. And she said, oh, you've come all this way. She said, come and have a cup of tea before you go. I've never had a cup of tea when I have bought a car. Never mind when I haven't. So I'm going, yeah, that'd be lovely. I'll have a cup of tea. So I'm sat in the kitchen. I'm having a cup of tea, and she's a lovely, polite lady. We're chatting.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, this energy starts to build behind me, and it's colossal. And my arms are starting to hum, and I'm starting to sweat and go hot, and I'm starting to shake. And it's desperate to jump into my body and talk to her. And I'm aware, clairsentiently, it's a tall, blonde German man. So I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go into trance any minute. I can't stop it. It's so powerful. I thought, I'm going to have to say something or go. So I said, look, this is going to sound bonkers. I said, I've been a medium for decades and I've got this tall, blonde German man who's desperate to speak to you. I'll just go, shall I? And she went, no, let him in. So, oh, okay, she obviously knows who it is. So I relaxed and whoa, energy came in like a bloody steam train. All I could hear, you know, like sat in the kitchen with your eyes shut and you're listening to the TV front room, the TV speaking German. All this German coming out of me. I never spoke a word of German in my life. Apart from 9, probably. All this German coming out of me. I have no idea what he said. And gone again, as fast as he came in. I'm wrecked. Sweat's pouring off me. I'm shaking. Can't hold my cup and saucer. I look up. This woman's crying her eyes out. I thought, oh God, what have I done? I said, I'm so sorry. And she looked up from her tears. She said, don't you be sorry. She said, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I said, what happened? She said, let me tell you first. The reason I'm selling a car is the same reason I'm selling the house. She said, my husband is a vile pig of a man and he's been beating me for years. She said, my boss said to me, if I pluck up the courage to leave him, get divorced, he'll support me, he'll make sure I'm okay, he'll be there for me, help me with the legal process. She said, so I did. I've kicked him out, we're selling everything, splitting it all down the middle. She said, then my boss got diagnosed with cancer and he died 2 weeks later. She said, that was him. He just came through to tell me everything's going to be okay, he's still looking after me.
Wow.
Now I drove home, humbled for being chosen to deliver the message, and very confused as to how they made me want to buy a Mitsubishi Shogun.
It's just a flag, wasn't it?
And the question is, if they convince me I need to buy a Mitsubishi Shogun, what else have they convinced me of that I'm not aware of? You know our life journeys that take funny turns and sometimes you think, why am I with this person?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Or why did I do that? And then later on it turns out to be a good lesson for you.
Yeah.
And I wonder how guided our paths are.
I wonder what part of that was her praying, like help me,
Yeah.
and what part of it was, I don't know, you've been used as that instrument really.
Yeah.
How do those two things collide?
I don't know, but it's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating.
I'm a big believer in the power of prayer.
Yeah, and me.
But I always ask my guides to prove things to me. I want to know. It's the engineer in me. I've got to know how it works, nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happens regularly in trance circles is a thing called rescue. Are you familiar with rescue? Mixed? No? Some yes and no. Okay. Rescue work is if you get an earthbound spirit. So when you pop your cloaks, when you pass over, a lot of people report, people who had near-death experiences all seem to come back saying there's a big tunnel of white light and you feel drawn up it and then they say no, it's not your turn and you come back and all that stuff. So it's fairly well established that there's some form of tunnel of light to transfer yourself over to the other side. But you don't have to go. And people don't go for many reasons. People don't go if maybe they love their partner so much they can't bear to leave them. Or maybe they were murdered and they want to see justice served, they're so angry about things. Sometimes it's religious reasons, right? Sometimes if it's a suicide and they've been taught suicide's a sin, they don't want to go and meet their maker. Sometimes they've just been a horrible, evil person and they're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to pay for this now in some way or form. So I don't want to go. I don't want to go and be held accountable. There's many different reasons people don't pass over. Oh, I've also heard as well, some people want to go and travel the world and see the things they never saw before they go. That sounds like a laugh.
Cheap ticket, that isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Didn't even get any air miles. So there's many reasons people don't transfer over at the time. So they become earthbound. That tunnel closes again. The window has closed. And what they do then is when you do a trance circle, you open a portal between the two worlds. So they use the opportunity to bring some of these lost souls through and send them home. So they call it a rescue. And some people sit just for that, have a rescue circle. But I would always get them at the end, after all the communication with relatives or the collective, whatever, we get rescues come in on the end. So, for me, I like evidence, okay? When I do public mediumship in front of an audience, I like lots of detail, lots of proof who it is. So it's unequivocal, yes, I know exactly who that is. We describe what they look like, what they pass with, what they did for a job, all that kind of stuff. I like that kind of evidence. So the rescue thing for me was a little bit woolly because there's no way to verify who's coming in or what happened. There is some recordings on my website of rescues on my YouTube channel. And they do make your hair stand on end a little bit because they're often quite lost and confused. And some people can spend quite a lot of time here before they're ready to go home, especially ones in the war who've been blown up, things like that. They don't really realise they're dead. And they can spend quite a lot of time around relatives and things before they're ready to go. So you get these entities come into the circle, and they would come in through me as the trance medium and speak through me, and the rest of the circle would then encourage them to go to the light, and the mediums amongst the circle would say, oh yeah, look, your auntie's there, she's reaching around down to you, and all that kind of stuff. And you would mentally will the person to go up into the light, and they would go. Now, that's kind of a big leap of faith for me. And again, being the engineer, I want proof. So I was asking the question, how do I know this is real and not some figment of my imagination with different voices and all the rest of it coming through? And I was dating a very spiritual girl down in Bristol, and we had an unbelievable experience on rescue. So we sat there, we're having a glass of wine, chatting, and she starts telling me a ghost story. So she tells me about a haunted priory that her mother lived in, that had a haunted attic bedroom. And as she's telling me this, I start to see a vision of this priory. So I'm saying, was there an orchard out the back to the left? And she's going like, yeah, how do you know that? I'm saying, well, I'm seeing the vision. Was there an old millstone to the right of the front door? Yeah, there was. And I'm starting to see bits of this house. And then she tells me that she would go visit her mum on the weekends, and her son was about 5. And they would stick him up in his attic bedroom because they thought, well, he don't know the difference, chuck him up there. And they were all non-believers at that point. And he would come down in the morning and tell them about this lady who come and sat in his bed and talk to him. As she's telling me this, I start to see the lady. So I'm saying, was she very, very thin with silver waist-length hair? And she looked at me and she said, I never saw her myself, but that's what my son would say. So, okay, so I'm having a now, she's in the room with me now, communicating. So, and then it took a very strange turn. Now I'm communicating with her directly, and I kind of lost Jo, sat next to me. And she told me she used to be the housekeeper in this priory. And in her old age, she got dementia. And they would lock her away in this attic bedroom out of harm's way. And then one of the people studying there decided if she had dementia and she couldn't remember or tell anybody anything coherently, he could do what he wanted to her. Right. If you know what I'm saying. So he was having his wicked way with her, and she became so unhappy in her lucid moment, she decided to end her life to stop it.
Yes, that's right.
And then I had the vision now changed from communication to I saw a woman sit on the floor, and it's like I'm looking over her shoulder. She sits on the floor and she gets one of those old-fashioned thick jam jars with a big glass stopper on the top. And she puts it on the floor and there's a huge chip in the rim. And she starts to smash her left wrist repeatedly into this chip. Now this has turned into a horror film now. Blood going everywhere. And this woman's smashing and smashing. I'm a bit shocked. I'm like, oh bloody hell. And I'm in this vision, right? I've lost the room. I'm in this vision. Then, Jo sat next to me, grabs her left wrist and starts to scream at the top of her voice. And she's going, ah, make it stop, ah! I mean, she's like, her wrist has just been cut off. I'm thinking, what the hell? How are you physically experiencing what I'm seeing in the vision, and I haven't told you a word about it?
Wow.
And she's screaming for all her worth. I mean, the dogs are barking, the neighbours are banging on her. I'm waiting for the police to kick the door in. And she's going, make it stop! And I'm thinking, I don't make it stop, I don't make it stop. Well, and I'm panicking, I've gone into proper panic mode. So I'm like, right, ask my guides what we'll do. And they said, you want to prove it's a rescue. She didn't pass over because of a religious belief that suicide's a sin. Send her to the light beam. So I then, with all this mayhem, I'm trying to mentally push this woman up to the light. And when I saw her feet go, she stopped screaming. So that proved to me 100%
What a validation again for you.
that rescue was real. So, yes, interesting one.
So the healing and the doctor.
Oh, the healing.
Harry.
Yeah, we'll get on to that.
Do you want to have a couple of minute break? Do you want a 5-minute break? Yeah? Get a cup of tea? 10 minutes, come back, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we do that? Yeah, just put it on pause.
All good,
yeah. You've had all these experiences and validations one way or another. And how was that transition then? How did you go from that to the healer and the doctor and Harry?
Okay. I was away on a retreat teaching trance development with a lady in Redditch, Nuala.
Yeah, that's the lady.
That's it.
Yeah.
Do you know Nuala?
I think so, yes, Stuart's reminded me of her, so,
Yeah.
So this is before COVID
Right.
stuff, and we were doing quite regular retreats from West Wales and Herefordshire and down into Somerset and all over the place. And we take about 20 people away. And the first one, I met Nuala. I had a phone call from a woman saying she's doing a psychic supper with a medium's dropped out. And would you come and do it? And normally I avoid psychic suppers because I don't like everyone drinking and the noise while you're trying to do mediumship. But something told me to go and do this one, and it was summer and I was on a motorbike, so I thought, yeah, that'd be a nice run down to Hay on Wye. So I went down on a motorbike, and she was the table behind me. So as she went round, she was getting feedback from people. And she came up to me at the end and she said, "You're a really good trance medium." And I said, "How do you know?" And she said, "Because I'm being told." She said, "You should come on one of our retreats." So I thought, great, yeah, I'll be up for that. She said, "We do trance all week." I thought, great, yeah, I'll do that. And then I heard nothing from her. I messaged her and I heard nothing from her. I thought, well, not meant to be. And then a year or so later, I'd gone on a massive Keep Fit campaign, and I was doing 6K runs and salsa dancing and gym, and I was pushing myself, and it was a really hot day, and I obviously got dehydrated, and I ended up with a kidney infection and a slipped a disc at the same time.
Really working out well for you then.
Giving it up ever since. We ended up in hospital, and she phoned me 2 days before I went into hospital to say, "It's next week, we're going away, you come in." She said, "I've been told by Spirit you've got to come." So I, yes, perfect, just what I need. So I literally came out of the hospital, taking the drip out of my arm and jumping in the car.
Wow.
And went off to West Wales. So the first few days I'm hobbling about in agony. And they said to me, "Will you do a trance demonstration?" So I said, yeah, sure. So set the room up, took the lights down, and did a few messages, and Bernard, my spokesperson for the collective, came through and we had a bit of a chat. And then one of the girls, young girl on there, she'd lost her boyfriend 6 months before, and he'd been on his way to her house with the ring in the car, and had a car crash on the way and died. So Spirit called this girl forward. I transfigured into her boyfriend and held her hands, and they had quite an intimate chat and told her he loved her and all that stuff. When I came back, it's all very emotional. And this went on through the week doing different demonstrations. And a guy came down halfway through the week, and I can't remember his name, Richard something. But he was demanding, because they were all talking about this trance thing, they were demanding that see it again. So I said, okay, we'll sat. Everyone else had kind of gone to bed, it's late night, so I said, okay, we'll sit, just us, like tutors. And he said, can I take some photographs? And Bernard said, we will tell you when to take the photographs. Of course, he didn't listen to that. Took a nice big flash. And when you're in trance, loud noises, crinkling a plastic bottle, anything like that is definite in trance because all your senses are very heightened. When he took this big flash, I nearly fell off the chair. And he got told off by Nuala, big time. And then when he said, you can now take your photographs, he took some more. When they came out, the first picture he took, there's nothing on it, just me and this other guy sat there, gone. The second picture, massive orbs all round us, which is, for me is very evidential, because a lot of people try to say orbs of dust. By the end of the week, Nuala said to me, you know you've got someone following you about in spirit. I said, yeah, I'm aware of someone, but I don't know who it is. She said, I do. It's this guy called Dr. Manners. I've been talking to him. And he wants to work with you. And I was like, me? Healing? I said, is his sat-nav broke? I don't do healing. She said, well, give it a go. She said, well, do you want a message from Auntie Doris or your pain gone? That's a good argument. So I tried it, and anyone got any aches and pains or whatever, everyone got fixed on nothing. But I thought, because I'm one of the tutors, they're just blowing smoke.
Yeah.
So when I got back, I said to my guys, what am I supposed to do? Is this real? What am I supposed to do with this? I can't just give up work. I've got a company to run. I need money. I've got bills to pay. And I've got no clinic. And I've got no customers. What am I supposed to do? And the next day I got a phone call from a friend of mine in Cheltenham who teaches Reiki. She said, what are you doing Friday? Can you come and do your Reiki too for free? You'd be doing me a favour. So I said, how's that doing you a favour, doing it for free? She said, because I've got an odd number of students and they've got to work in pairs. And it's really difficult to teach when you've got to keep going down and being the other person. So I said, okay. So I went along and did it. And at the end of the thing, she came up to me, she said, you weren't doing Reiki at all. I could see your spirit doctor behind you. And he freaked a few people out that we were practicing them. But at the end, the net result was, she said, right, now you've got to go off and do 15 hours practice to get your certificate. So that was the answer to my first question, what do I do next? Practice. So I thought, okay. So I threw it out on Facebook. So I've got this new spirit doctor. It's all brand new. I've got no clue what's going on. Anybody want to come for some healing? First lady came in. She had really high blood pressure, like 190 over 140 or something. 20 minutes later, it's normal. So she was like dancing around the room. I said, oh, don't get excited. I might be back tomorrow. I don't know. Every day she's sending me pictures of her blood pressure monitor. Then I had a 12-year-old lad with alopecia, and my doctor said to him, you're too much of a full head of hair. And one of the really weird things was when he's laid on the table, I put my hands on him, and it felt like he had 5 overcoats on. And the mum told me after he's got ADHD as well as alopecia, and she said normally when someone touches him, you go and hide in a cupboard and he's gone to sleep on your table. 2 months later, full head of hair. I got photographs of all this. And then it went on, backs, knees, elbows. I was taking arthritis out of people's shoulders and spines, and had a woman come in, and a lot of people wanted to test me. So I come and say, what do you want healing? So you tell me. So I said, okay. So I lie on the table, put my hands on the shoulders. I said, okay, I'm really drawn to your lower spine area. And she said, yeah, that's right. So I said, okay, lie on your front. So I put my hands down the lower spine. I said, I'm seeing you being bucked off a horse and landing on your bum. And she said, that's exactly right. I broke my calluses, chucked off a horse. And it kind of went on like that. So I did that, and then I went to a mind, body, spirit fair. I thought I've got to test out people don't know. So I went and did a mind, body, spirit fair. And everyone got fixed on that. And my friend Sydney, Texas, American Sydney, she told everyone on the door, don't tell him what's wrong with you, make him tell you. Thanks, Sid. So everybody 100% right, diagnosed. I thought, okay, this is really kind of proven to me that this is real, something real is going on here. So I went and did a couple more mind, body, spirit fairs. Oh, and I've got to tell you this story. I'm sat in this room, and I got no paraphernalia at all. And people got big roller banners and red Indian headdress. And there's a woman there doing Egyptian Reiki, right? She had ostrich feathers, like And she's doing this. She's wearing like a headdress and robes, and she's doing all of this like she's herding the energy up. And then the guy next to me's got this full red Indian head kit on, and he's a big guy with half-rimmed glasses. And he starts tapping on this woman's back like he's a doctor, but he's got no stethoscope. He's not listening to the echo. I'm thinking, what is he doing? And then he started chanting in Red Indian, going, "Oi, yo." I lost it. I couldn't stop laughing. I just lost the plot. And I could hear my doctor going, "Well, there's no need for that, is there?" Anyway, tried it out in all these different places and came to the conclusion, this is real, something's happening here, and everyone seems to get fixed. And some of it was proper, people coming in with walking sticks and going out with it over their shoulder, and I thought, something really going on here. Even me, the sceptical engineer, starting to get convinced. So again, I said, what am I supposed to do? How do I start this healing journey? Next day, I'm at work at my internet company, and a woman walks in off the street, and she said, "Can I speak to Peter, please?" So they showed her into the meeting room, and I went through. She looked at me, she said, "Oh, you're very spiritual, aren't you?" I said, "How do you know?" She said, "Because I'm being told." So I said, "Okay, what do you do?" She said, "I run a yoga and meditation retreat by the lakes in Woodchester." So I said, "Okay." So we got chatting. She said, "What's it you do here? Is it websites?" I thought, fancy coming into a building and not knowing what we do. So I said, "Yeah." I'm thinking something's not quite right here. So anyway, we chatted a bit and I told her about the healing thing. She said, "Oh, that's why I'm here." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I had no idea what I came in for." She said, "I was just told by Spirit to come in here and ask for Peter."
Amazing. A bit like you turn up for the car.
Exactly. And she said, "Come and start your healing practice at my retreat and I'll bring you lots of patients free of charge."
Wow.
And she did. She brought me hundreds of patients. And that's where the journey started.
The doctor, did you check him out?
I checked him out, yes. Dr. Manners died 1971. He was a British medical doctor. He was an osteopath and he was also a scientist. And he invented one of the world's first machines using ultrasonics to heal the body. So they would measure the resonant frequency of all the different bits coming off you. And they measured loads of people, and then they measured sick people with known illnesses, like liver cancer or whatever, and they would look at their frequencies by comparison, and they started to identify which frequencies related to which ailments, illnesses and organs. And then they then built the machine to send a correcting frequency, because they knew what it should resonate at. So they then start to send the right frequency back into the body, and it would make the sick organ start to resonate at the right harmonic.
Isn't that amazing? Because it's a different type of energy.
Absolutely.
It's bringing through now.
Yeah.
You're the device.
Yeah. Basically, he's using me as his energy machine.
Yeah. Did you ever ask why? Why me?
No.
He just accepted as it is.
Yeah, it's just the path of the journey. So I found all that very fascinating.
Yeah.
And we did all sorts. We did stuff. I had a woman came in, she'd fallen off a bike and broken her arm, and it healed with the bone pushed out the side. Not broke the skin, but pushed out the side. And she said, "Can you fix that? I don't want to have it go and re-broken at the hospital." So I said, "Well, I don't know, give it a go." And he just pushed the bone back in and it stayed in.
Jeez.
And I've had the same with arthritis, with joints pushed out, and just pushed them back in and they stayed in. And I had a woman in a London hospital, didn't speak a word of English, and her daughter, who's quite a highly trained nurse, contacted me, and she said, "Look, I'm not supposed to, because of my profession, but can you hear my mum?" I said, "Only if you stand next to her and translate for me." And she had glaucoma and cataracts in both eyes, and she said, as soon as I started doing the healing, her eyes streamed for about 20 minutes, and then she woke up and she got clear vision. And that was distance healing. So then I thought, okay, distance healing, right, how does this work? I need engineering me again, pops up, and says I need to figure this out. And so I'd heard this social media clip, and it was discussing a group of Buddhist monks who'd sat in a room with an electronic box called a random noise generator. Now, a random noise generator spits out a signal every second, either on or off, or 5 volts or 0 volts. And over an hour, it'll average 50-50. And they wanted to see if they could swing the output one way or the other. So they got all these monks to focus on it and send their thoughts to it. And they swung it up to about 80-20 consistently. And it was too big a swing to be coincidence. So then they said, okay, let's put 2 random noise generators in the room. Will the effect now be diluted between the two? Will they be 70-30 or 60-40? Or will they both swing 80-20? And they both swung 80-20, showing there's an abundance of energy. So then they said, okay, now let's fly one to the other side of America, 2,000 miles away, and do the same experiment. Will the time, space, make any difference? Will there be a delay, or will it be diluted over distance? So they did that experiment and found, again, it responded on a room on its own with no one in it, exactly the same as the first one.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Right, well, that's entanglement theory of quantum physics. So I read all of this and I thought, wow, so can I heal people over distance?
Yeah.
So I thought, right, Facebook experiment. So I posted it that I wanted to do this experiment and nipped to the shops, do a bit of food shopping. When I came back, I had 40 people signed up. For heck, it's going to take me ages. The only rules were, I don't know you, I don't know what's wrong with you. I'm going to diagnose you blind. All I need is a picture of your face. I'm going to diagnose you blind, and then I'm going to send the healing, and then you've got to fill in a feedback form. And it's multi-choice answers.
Wow.
So I could then do statistics
That's
on the results.
extraordinary, that is, really.
So I did that, and I mean, some of the diagnoses were, I had this one lady, I said, okay, I'm drawn to massive anxiety. I'm also getting something wrong with your heart. I'm drawn there, and I'm also getting something wrong with your lady bits. And she said, yeah, my mum's just died, that's the anxiety. She said, I've got polycystic ovaries, and I've got arrhythmia. So I was getting the diagnosis is spot on. And then I send in the healing energy. And when I did the statistics at the end, 79% of the people had an improvement in their condition.
Wow.
7% were completely cured. And one of those had macular degeneration.
Wow, flipping it.
One lady pretended she was her husband. She cheated the system. He'd had a heart attack and a stroke and had gone into depression, and he'd sat in a chair just staring out the window all day, every day. So she pretended she was him, put his name in, and she said immediately after the healing, he got up and stretched and said, I feel completely different, go for a walk. And went out in the sunshine.
I mean, getting that kind of statistics back for yourself, because I imagine, you kind of know it and you don't know it, and then you've got this massive confirmation. What changed in you from the back of that?
The real belief structure,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
It's one thing doing healing people, and you think, well, how much placebo effect is there,
Yeah.
and how much of this and how much of that, and how much are they wanting me to be right?
Yeah.
So all those questions in your mind.
So Harry Edwards would say that's the highest form of healing that you could do is distant healing. And it brings me on to Harry.
Okay. So I went on for 5-6 years using the doctor's manners stuff.
Yeah.
Then I've been writing this book, and I have 5 people give me impromptu readings that I hadn't asked for.
Yeah.
2 of them, they all said, finish your book, life's going to go crazy, you're going to be travelling and touring and all that stuff. So okay, so I've been number 4 o'clock in the morning, like, so I better write my book, I can't tell you. Then 2 of them said to me, oh, and Harry Edwards is coming to join you. And that to me was like saying, Jesus is coming to join you.
So you knew of him?
I heard of him,
Yeah.
but when the first one said it, I then looked it up to see who he was and thought, wow, this guy busts loads of people, 10,000 letters a week, incredible. People coming in wheelchairs and walking out. I thought, wow, mind blowing. So I took it with a pinch of salt, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And thought, just being enthusiastic. A couple of weeks later, I got the unusual opportunity to meet Dr. Manners' protege, an old gentleman in his 80s who'd met Dr. Manners when he was in a wheelchair, and Dr. Manners had got him walking again.
Wow.
And he then joined him and worked for him and became his right-hand man.
Wow.
And I healed another woman that used to work with him, who had a bad shoulder, and she then introduced me to him.
What was that like for them? So you brought Dr. Manners through.
I don't
What was that
know.
like for them?
I don't know, to
Can
be
you,
honest.
well, I can't quite comprehend that. Can you?
Again,
Like
though,
what it would have been like for them.
Spirit lining stuff up.
Amazing.
So I went to meet this guy, Robert Lebesque, his name is. I went to meet him. I want to know what Dr. Manners was like as a person, you know, what his journey was. He was in Germany in the 1940s, and they were doing research then on this somatic system with the vibrational energy. And the Germans stormed the laboratories and were setting light to everything. He had to grab papers and climb out a window and run. All amazing stuff. And he also had the power of telekinesis.
Okay.
They said as a child, he would slide objects along the mantelpiece till they were teetering on the edge. His mother would run to catch them, and then he'd slide them back the other way.
What a game that is.
And Robert's wife said he had a breakthrough in his research. A millionaire who they'd got out of a wheelchair walking again had bought a swimming pool for them because he wanted to practice with people in the water, sending energy through the water to them. He had a breakthrough in his research and discovered the swimming pool had to be exactly at body temperature for it to work. And he took them all out for dinner, and she said we sat down at the table, and every knife and fork on the table just bent in half in front of their eyes, and she kept some of them.
Wow.
So whilst we're having this amazing conversation, Robert goes off in trance. He's gone. I'm thinking, what? Hello? Woo, what's going on? I'm thinking, he's gone into bloody trance. And he comes back and he says to me, I've got someone here with a message for you. He said, do you know who it is? I said, I've got no clue. Why? I said, Dr. Manners? He said, well, he's here, yes. He said, no. He said, it's Harry Edwards. I was like, what? He said, he's got a message for you. He said, you must believe he's coming to work with you. Okay, that's 3 times, right? You know me being a sceptical engineer. 2 weeks after that, they asked me if I'd pop into the local church and fix their IT for them because their computer's not talking to the router. So I sorted all the tech issues out and I tiptoed in next door to catch the tail end of the visiting medium. She came straight to me next. She said, I've got your grandmother here. Okay. She said, I've got to say to you, May, she thought it was the month last night, that was her name. She said, generations of spiritual development are all coming together through you right now. It's very exciting. I thought, wow, it's not your normal church message, is it? So I went up at the end to say, thank you ever so much for my message. And I suddenly found myself blurting out Harry Edwards stuff. It was like I couldn't stop it. I'm talking about the Harry Edwards bits that had just happened. I said, I'm so sorry, I don't know why I blurted all that out. She said, I do. He appeared in my car this evening on the way here.
Wow.
And I had no idea why. She said, now I do. It's for you. It's a confirmation.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, 4 times, right?
God.
Then Kim phoned me.
Yeah.
She booked a distance healing. So I phoned her up to chat about what do you want healing. And I suddenly went, oh, why have I got to say Harry Edwards to you?
Yeah.
And there's a big pause. And she said, well, I was at the Harry Edwards Foundation this morning.
Yeah.
And I've just been made a trustee of the place. So, oh God, this is...
Uncanny.
So I said to her,
Yeah.
my story. And she said, oh, you must come up. So I went. And she'd arranged for 2 of the resident healers to do a healing for me, which was very nice. So I sat there and I'm led on this massage table thing, and they're holding my hands. And at the end of it, they're freaking out. And I said, what's the problem? They said, your hands are exactly like Harry's hands.
Yeah.
I said, how do you know? He died in 1976. They said, because there's a cast of them in the chapel, as you know.
Yeah.
So they took me through. They went, sit in his chair, sit in his chair. So I did. Big sign, don't sit in the chair. And then I had a vision of him laughing at me, saying, you're a rule breaker like me. And he's laughing. So we got this, I don't know if you've been, there's a bronze cast of his hands.
Yeah.
And I put my hands next to him, and they're bloody identical. Same shape, size, even the lines on the palms are in the same places. So I'm a bit freaked out now.
Kim told me that.
So
Is
when
there
I
a
got
a man who's got Harry Edwards' hands? You got to meet him.
yeah, bronze. So when I got back, I told my friend Pip, who's the president of the Broadgate Church in Coventry, and she went, "Oh yeah, this church donated those hands,
Wow.
and he used to come here with
Wow.
my predecessors."
You couldn't write that,
And I
could
went,
you?
"What? Freaky."
So this is all kind of pretty recent, really, isn't it?
Very recent, that stuff.
So when
Yeah.
when you're doing with Dr. Manny, are you going into trance? And when Harry's with you, is there a difference? What do you?
Yeah, it was quite interesting at the beginning because I was a bit freaked out and I'm thinking, what happens to Dr. Manners? Is he replacing him? Because I don't want to be disloyal or disrespectful. You know, I have a wonderful work with him, you know. And I always call him Dr. Manners. I never call him by his first name or anything. And then they're telling me there's Harry Edwards coming. I thought, well, I'd better acknowledge it. And I think, well, how does this work? How do they work between them? And it seesawed a little bit to start with, because Dr. Manners was a psychic surgeon, and Harry Edwards was a spiritual healer.
Yeah.
And there's a difference in that if you don't know. So I'm like, okay, how does this work? And then I asked my old mentor, Carol, down in Cheltenham, and she said to me, yeah, they're working together and you're a new experiment. They're working to blend their energies together. I said, well, who does the healing? Does one take a lead? She said they're both doing it, but they'll assess the patient between them and decide who takes lead and how it works. And she said, who's the third one? I said, what? She said, who's the third one that's coming in? I said, I don't know, what do you mean third one? She said, there's another one coming that's going to join them too. So I'm waiting to see who that's going to be, but it's all going a bit crazy.
That's amazing, isn't it? It is quite an amazing story, isn't it, really, to be honest with you? I can't quite, but it is just amazing. You couldn't write that stuff.
Yeah. And the other week down at my Nailsworth clinic, I had a lady come in. I normally allocate an hour per patient. And you sit down and I make them fill in a disclaimer form and have a chat to them about, you know, how did they get the injury and what happened and blah, blah, blah. And I've had some quite amazing things happen down at that place. This lady came in and she works on a market selling cheese that they produce out of. And she'd had some disc in her hand had gone and was swollen up. She's in hospital the night before, crying with pain and all that. 10 seconds.
Wow.
Completely fixed. And I thought, wow, this is new. Because normally I go off into my trance and I move around and put my hands wherever I'm told to go. And if it's like, I don't know, arthritis in the knee, for example, I'd put my hand on the knee and Dr. Manners would move my hand like that and I would be aware of like little pyramids of bone inside the joint and he'd be grinding them off. And then they'd get up and go, oh God, the pain's gone. But it'd take time because this is happening like instantaneously now. So there's new things happening and going on.
It's almost like a new chapter in your life, isn't it?
Yeah, very much.
Why do you think these great men continue? What have you ever kind of questioned that, or just accept it?
I just accept it because
what it is.
I took a big step giving my factory to my children as my source of financial income.
Yeah, so it's a leap of faith.
A big leap of faith
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I'm following a path.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, I guess that kind of concludes where we are really now.
So that's up to date. I mean, there's lots of other things I could tell you story-wise.
I'll tell you what I'd love, I don't know if you're okay with that, maybe just to give one or two people 5-10 minutes healing.
Yeah.
Is that okay? So I think what we'll do, if you want, we can carry on filming or turn it off, what you prefer.
I don't mind, it's up to you.
Has anybody got any questions first that you'd like to ask?
I've got one question which is relevant to Harry Edwards. I'm involved in healing myself. It all came to me in 2016 from an injury which was caused by near-death experience.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you don't mind, 5-10 minutes, do you want to tell your story?
Yeah,
So you
that's
jump
fine.
in and I'll have a listen. It's a fascinating story. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so back in 2016 we went on a family skiing holiday, right? Which we took all the lessons beforehand in Tamworth No Dome, and on the very first day I had a major accident and totaled me total ACL, MCL, something else. So I was out of the scheme for the whole week. Came back home, went for an X-ray, an MRI scan, and they said, right, we need to get you into rehab, build your strength up in your leg, we'll pencil you in for an operation. So it was April then, the operation was booked for September, late September. I'm back in the gym, I'm training, my leg strength's up. I've never lifted as many weights in my life, squatting, and I was proud of myself. I didn't really want the operation. I was concerned about it. A week before the operation, I'm in work and I'm carrying 2 heavy objects and my knee gave way. Pain instant, legs swelled up, knee swelled up. So I went home, got showered, got changed, lay on the bed. I'm not very religious and I've got nothing against religion. Put my hands together and said, please God help me. And I had a vision of an American Indian with the feathers, the headrest, who said to me, his name was Red Wing, and I was miffed. I don't drink, I don't take drugs, nothing like that. And then straight away, he said, let me introduce you to the doctor. And just appeared was this other man who said his name was Mr. Johansson. Right? Now, with doing some research, Mr. Johansson was a great healer in the UK, who was also friends with Harry Edwards and other people around that era. And I said to him, when did you pass? And he said, I passed 20 years ago. So Google searched it and it was right. So I thought to myself, similar to what Peter said, I thought, how's he going to work with me? I work as a joiner, carpenter. I couldn't get my hand around it. And for 6 weeks, I was waking up in the middle of the night, putting my hands out and symbols and no end of stuff.
What happened to your knee after you saw the vision?
When I seen that vision, I get up to go downstairs to get a drink and my knee pain had stopped and the swelling had gone.
Really?
And I've never had an issue with it since. But what that led on to me having a healing path, healing people with some remarkable things, remarkable outcomes, shall we say. But along the line of them 6 weeks where I was seeing people in my dream state, one of them was I was in a church and there was a person facing that way and he said, come forward my friend. And then this chair swung round and I had an image of this person and he said, come forward. So I walked forward, he said, put your hands out. I put my hands out like that. And this was recorded by my wife because she was taking recordings when I was doing this. She was telling me the next day, I couldn't remember much of it. You know, so she started recording me because she thought I was going to and I remember putting my hands out and Harry Edwards said, he swung around this chair and he says, give me your hands. I put my hands out and he said, put his hands on mine. And he said, use them wisely. They were his words. And then I didn't see him again. And then that led me to, he announced his name to me. And then I, like Peter, I'd done some Google searching and I had to go and see this place. So I phoned up a lady, I'm not sure if her name was Val or Jill.
It was Val.
It was a Val.
Yeah.
And I spoke to her and my wife said to me, don't waste your time. She's probably heard this 1,000 times. And I was thinking, there's got to be some reason for this. So she invited me down and said, we'll show you around the place. So she showed me into the sanctuary because he's got a church built in the property as you were. And she went, and this is Harry's chair. And I said, no, that wasn't his chair because I assumed a swivel chair like office chairs like leather or black. I said, no, it wasn't. It was a swivel chair, and she put a hand on it, and it's a timber wooden chair, probably over 100 years old, and it swivels. And I was amazed with being a joiner myself, the technology involved in that particular chair. So that was sort of confirmation for myself, but I still didn't understand what to do with it. But then
a couple of years went by.
Well, in the sanctuary, what did you do? You went into Harry's room.
Oh yeah, in the sanctuary, this lady said to me, I said, that's what I seen in the vision and this church. You know, everything about it. And as I was in there, my whole body was tingling, and it was like I was getting pins and needles right through my body. You know, does that sound?
Yeah.
And even as I'm talking now, I'm feeling energy, you know. And she said to me, Jason, can you just come with us into this room? And it was a bit of a test, because she's probably heard that of thousands of people, I'm assuming. So she said, come into this room and just have a walk around, see if you can sense anything. Because with that, what came to me came mediumship abilities as well, to see and hear spirit and communicate. So
You never had any before?
no, never. So I went into this room and I started off in the corner and I walked the full length, and then I walked across, and then for some reason I come back, I walked this way and along, and as I'm walking I just heard this voice say, take 2 steps back. And I took 2 steps back, and she's standing in the corner, and I said, I've just been told to take 2 steps back, so there's some relevance here. And where I stood, my whole body was tingling. And when I moved out of it, tingling was less. So when I went back in, she went, that's quite remarkable. She said, where you're standing, that's where Harry passed away on an evening when he was doing distant healing.
Oh, wow.
And I was humbled with it, and she was like, that's remarkable, that's amazing. And I was like, what, that's... And then at that point then, I got a direct connection. And I said, he liked to sit here, he's telling me, because he liked to look at the moonlit skies. And she got a little bit teary, but she was, you know, and that's my story with regards to Harry. And then the next occasion when he came through may have been about 6 months later, and in the night I was asleep, and he was next to me and he said, can I show you how I do my healing? Because everyone does healing differently. And he said, look, and he put his hand on my arm and moved it in a slight circular motion. He said, and his words were, it's as though you're erasing a pencil mark with an eraser. He says, and that's how I erase any ailments.
So you followed it up, didn't you? Went into spiritualist churches just to get a bit more knowledge,
Yeah.
and then somebody said, like, you challenged Harry, and
Yeah.
you had it confirmed again.
Like yourself, I had mediums saying to me, and I found it hard to accept, really hard to accept. You know, very hard. And I went to different churches through the East Midlands, down to Kettering, Liverpool. I went to, and I was paranoid thinking, these people are telling people I'm coming. And more than not, every church there was a good medium would say, you're a healer, are you aware of that? And I didn't know how to accept it, even to the point where one of the church's registered healers, I got a message, I was seeing a doctor, and I was told, ask for Paul. So there was like 20 people in the room in a circle, and I said, who's Paul, please? And this guy went, me. And I said, I'm just being drawn to ask to shake your hands. Some reason, 2 hands, so I went like that. It seemed strange. And I didn't go back to that church for 4 weeks. And when I went back, he went, can I have a word? And I was like, well, what have I done? He said, I suffered with a condition called fibromyalgia, and since you shook my hands, I've had no pain. Brilliant. He said, and even that wasn't confirmation for me. I still couldn't accept it. And the only time I accepted it was my wife came home from work, and do you know when you crick your neck and you're walking like that for a week, and your whole body's like that? She said, I didn't tell my wife for 2 years. We didn't tell our children for 3 years. I didn't tell her what I was involved in. She worked shifts late at night. I was allegedly at the gym. I was at the gym. So I kept it quiet. I've done all the online stuff. I worked with a group, a lady who set an online healing thing up, and it built the group up from 200 people to 2,500 people.
Wow.
And I'd be up late at night online with, like you said there, a picture to go by, and I'd be sending healing, and people would be messaging back on the group, and the lady contacted me and said, Jason, we've got 600 people lined up for healing tonight. And I was like, I'm going to bed at 2 in the morning, up at 6, tired, constantly, you know. But just back onto my, and this is going to be the end of it, back onto my wife. She said, do you know that healing, what you're on about? I went, yeah. She went, will it work on my neck? Because I'm like this. And I went, I can only do it going. You know, I never promise anyone.
No, absolutely.
You know, because I know it's not me, it's coming through me.
Absolutely.
So I said, I'll give it a try. So that night we goes to bed, and I said, just sit on the end of the bed there. Now, for some reason, when I do my healing, and this sounds strange, I'm being drawn to someone sitting there. I might want to turn the chair around. I don't know why. It has to be in a particular, even or that way, just a slight fraction. So I get in the position where I want it on the corner of the bed, and I put my hands above her shoulders, not actually touching her shoulders, and I could feel all this energy going through my body, and that's like the on switch. And about 4 or 5 minutes later, that energy drew away. So I took my hands away. I didn't touch her neck. And she went, wow, I felt you with your knuckles in going like, I was like, I didn't. And she said, no, you did. I could feel it. And I was shocked. I was like, no, I didn't. Yeah, yes, you did. I know you're telling or being untrue. Yeah, I could feel that, and you were pushing it. I was like, no, honestly, I didn't. But that night, that was the confirmation when I accepted. You know,
And then you were made the healer in the local church, right? Yeah.
and then just before COVID, which was like 4 years ago, I spoke to somebody in the church. Somebody in the church said, wow, the heat, the energy coming from you, all my pain's gone and this, that, the other.
Grabbing the chin.
Sorry, it's a spiritual church where I go to, and I had to, somebody questioned me, some old lady, and she said, where did you train? And I just went, Harry Edward School, which I didn't. But what that led on to the 3 healers who were there, who people would walk in and limp out. And it's not ego, I've got no ego whatsoever, but it was as though it was meant that they wanted me there. And the lady who ran the group said, Jason, could you be our new healer? Because we're not getting very many results from these 3 who are here. And I went in, I don't like to step on people's feet, but if you want me to, I'll feel obliged, I will help out. And I've had some amazing results, you know, and I'm at a point now where I'm aware of Harry and I'm aware of this other guy, but I've come to see Stuart to get the accreditation and hopefully build from that.
Excellent. That's really good.
You know.
How about this for an ego-deflating story? I was in Cheltenham, went out for a few beers. One of my mates phoned me up, meet down at the bottom of the high street. So I wandered downtown, walking along the high street, and there's a woman street beggar there, and she's clearly distressed. You know, you sense it, don't you? And you can see the look on her face. She's distressed. And I said, "Are you okay then?" And she went, "No, I'm bloody not." I said, "What's the matter?" And she pulled her trouser leg up, and the side of her calf there gone bright red, and was this red rash was spreading across the leg in front of my eyes, literally growing in front of my eyes, and it all swollen up. I said, "Oh," I said, "look, it's going to sound a bit nuts, and I'm not pervy like you, but can I put my hand on your leg?" And she went, "Yeah." So I put my hand on her leg, and I asked Dr. Manners to come in, and it just all shrank back down, and all the red rash disappeared. And she was like,
Wow.
looking at me like that. So I started to walk off to meet up with my mates, and she went, "Oi, oi, oi, oi." And I thought she was going to say thank you. She said, "You got a quid for a KFC?" I gave her a quid.
It reminds me of the story of Life of Brian. Have you seen that Life of Brian sketch?
Yeah.
Where he gets healed. Now you've done me out of business.
Good, mate. Okay. So the interesting part in all of that for me, like, was within a 4-week period, you rang me, you went down to the sanctuary, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you rang me and said, I've got a copy of the book, and I channel Harry Edwards. And then a week before, you'd come from Kim, and then we had a piano player, I think all three were channeling Harry Edwards, or and I just find it quite remarkable.
It's amazing, isn't it?
So I don't know what's going on, but something very, very interesting is happening.
Definitely.
So, has anybody got any questions? Or
You have reminded me of one more story actually that I think I'll share because I think it's really interesting.
yeah,
I explained that rescue often happens at the end of a trance session. I sat and I was at a bit of a temperature and a bit of a throat infection, and I shouldn't have been sitting, but people were driving quite a long way and I didn't want to let anyone down. And we sat and it started with a rescue straight away. And as that energy came in and it was massive, your body temperature goes up and you often get kind of frozen where you're not really breathing much and you can't move. And I'd gone into that state and I couldn't swallow because I had this cold and snotty throat. And I was stuck and I couldn't breathe and I couldn't swallow and I was frozen. And I started to panic because I couldn't breathe. And I thought, I'm going to have to fight my way back to the surface and call all this off, which I did. I had to send everybody home and apologise. And when I went home, I was all over the place. I couldn't get grounded back in my body properly. And I didn't sleep well, and I was getting anxiety and panic attacks starting. I thought, what the hell is going on? 4 days of no sleep. And then it dawned on me I got attachments. Now, Carol in Cheltenham for me, she was my mentor. She's my go-to if I got a problem because she's very wise. She's one of the people that has a direct voice in her head. So I phoned her up. I said, Carol, I think I got. And she said, yes, you have 4 of them. Come and see me now. So, I drove her. She said, right, what happened? And I said, we started this rescue. She said, right, we've got to finish it. And I had 4 days of hell at the end of my wits with fear, anxiety, panic going on. I was out of my mind with it. She said, right, we've got to finish it. So she says, right, sit down. She said, scan your auric field for a black dot. So I'm doing that. I said, yeah, found one. She said, right, follow it like a telegraph wire. I said, okay. Now, one of my sitters at the time was a researcher on the Britain's Most Haunted TV programme. I said, oh, it goes to her. And she said, does it go to her or through her? I said, well, actually, it goes through her. She said, keep following it. I said, fine. So I come to a castle. I described this castle. She said, well, where does it go? I said, it goes in the front and down into the dungeons. Follow it then, she said. I should explain Carol's ex-GCHQ doesn't take prisoners, right? We call it the Anne Robinson in the spirit world. Anyway, so I go down and I'm in the dungeons and it's pitch black. There's a couple of oil things floating up, flickering on the wall, and there's the gates of the jail cell things. I can't see inside. It's too dark. She said, go in then. I'm like, I don't want to. I'm imagining some demonic creature the other side. And I haven't touched on demons yet, but that's another story. I'm imagining some hideous creature on the other side. I don't want to. She says, man up, sunshine, or this is never going to finish. Oh, bloody hell. So I opened this cell gate and I went into the darkness. And instead of some horrible creature there were 4 men chained to the walls who were skin and bone. And they were terrified of me. And they'd been tortured to death. And they hadn't passed over because they were too scared to leave because they'd been told they're not allowed to. So she said, right, now we'll finish the rescue. So I had all 4 there, fear and anxiety in my auric field with me. That's what was making me go out of my mind. So we did the rescue. And when they went, the relief that lifted off me was extraordinary. She said, you ain't finished yet. Get back in there and search the other cells. So we did. And I found a young boy chained up in one of them and sent him to the light as well. That relief that came off me, I went home and slept for about 2 days solid. When I went back to my circle again, I told them the story. And the girl who's the Britain's Most Haunted researcher says, describe that castle. So I did. And she said, that's Ruthin Castle in North Wales. I was there 2 weeks ago with the TV crew. How the hell had they taken the spirits attached to her and brought them into my circle to be rescued? That's the
And
question.
why? The thing is, like when you talk about some of these kind of rescues that you've done, you're healing those souls, but you're also coming more and more into healing the souls here living. So it's like a different
all energy,
variation.
isn't it?
Exactly, it's the same
Yeah.
thing in a different form.
But
I
it
find
was
that
how
really
they made the
interesting.
connection through her back
Yeah,
to my
it's
circle.
incredible,
That's
isn't it?
amazing.
A bit like the car and everything else, all the different
Yeah.
parts of the jigsaw.
I
How
think
does that line up? It's
it's-
amazing.
It's amazing. The strangest healing I've ever done led to me doing a load of horse healing.
Yeah, I saw that on the website. Yeah, you said about the energy of the horses is more pure, dense.
Yeah, it's very different. It's a lower
Yeah.
frequency, but it's somehow cleaner. People are full of blockages and anxiety and hidden things, but horses are just like an empty tunnel, just pure. But this woman came in and she wanted to test my healing abilities on herself before she'd let me loose on the horses. That's how much they care for their horses, right? So she came in and I said, right, lie on the table, blah, blah, blah. And I said, was it you want healing? And she said, well, I've just been really run down and tired and nothing specific.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, have you had your COVID vaccines? And she said, yeah. So I said, okay. So lay on the table. So I put my hand on the shoulder and immediately I saw a big flash of light. I thought, whoa, this is different. What's going on here? And then she started to shake from head to toe, I mean violently, uncontrollably. And then she put her arms in the air, in front of her. And I said, are you okay? Do you want to put your arms down? She said, I can't. Right. Okay, this is weird. But carried on. Sweat coming off her was literally like you'd poured a glass of water all over the table. Pools of sweat. She's shaking away. When it finished, I said, what did you experience? What happened? And she said, 2 angels appeared and held my arms. I couldn't move them.
Right.
And she said, and a monk appeared at the bottom of the table, around my feet. Now I got a monk as one of my guides, so I was assuming it's him. I saw all these little black bits floating out of her body,
Right.
coming up out of there. And I don't know what it was, but whatever it was lifted from her. And she was so freaked out. She was like she'd been in a car crash. She was completely ashen and in shock. And she said, you can come and heal my horses. So I went up there, she had 2 horses. And the first one, she said, is tucked up. I'm like, no, I don't know what that means. I said, I don't know what that means. She said, don't worry, I'll tell you after, see what you get. So I said, okay. So I put my hands on its neck and with my mind I felt where is the problem. And I said, it's down here on its side. And she said, yeah, that's correct. So I said, okay, so I moved down the horse's side and I put my hands on it. I said, there's a twist in its gut, it's a partial twist, not a full twist. And it's causing it a lot of discomfort. So I'm asking Dr. Manners to come in and I felt it untwist. And his stomach went blah, 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 as it untwisted.
Right.
And then the horse breathed out, like 4 inches. He went, whew. And she said, that's what tucked up means, it's sucking its sides in.
Right.
So I said, okay. And she said, can you heal the other one? I said, what's the matter with the other one? She said, well, there's nothing physically wrong with it. It's kind of got a broken heart. It was taken away from its mother too young. And it's frightened of all the other horses. There's another horse out in the yard, it won't come out of the stable. So, okay, I'm thinking, what the hell am I supposed to do here? So I'm asking the boys upstairs. I said, what do I do here? They said, talk to it, put your hand on its heart. So I did. They said, tell it that this lady is its new mother. And she loves her and she's going to look after you and you're safe. So I did that telepathically. And she said, now I can't stop the bloody thing. It goes straight past all the other horses, takes itself up the field.
How amazing is that, really? How does that make you feel?
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? I've done a load more horses since then.
Yeah.
And lame ones as well that the vets checked after and said it's no longer lame.
Honestly, it's just it is quite incredible what you're doing.
The best one I've done ever is the guy in Gloucester. I've done Bell's palsy with a face down here straight
Yeah.
like that, and drop head syndrome. If you come across that, with your head looking at the floor.
Never
It
heard
took
it.
about an hour to get her head back up. But this guy in Gloucester, he had 5 back fractures, 2 joints crumbled away with osteoporosis, and a brain tumour. And it was a brain tumour on his pituitary gland, causing the osteoporosis. And when I met him, he couldn't bear to get out of the chair. It's absolute agony. And he had a physio telling him to bend and stretch.
The worst thing you could do.
I put my hands on his back and it was like a car crash. There was a hole in his back you could put your thumb into where the joint had crumbled away and the top half of his back had slid down and overlapped the bottom half. And I've worked with him long term, but I've got him now, I've got that back up. He's got no back fractures, we've rebuilt the bones.
So you had it x-ray to
He's gone this week for his second MRI,
Wow.
and third MRI. The second MRI, they said, the first one must be wrong, you haven't got osteoporosis. And we got he's got prolactin levels in his blood. I don't know what it means, but that's what it tells me. They're supposed to be between 300 and 500, his were 52,000.
Jeez.
And I did 2 sessions on his pituitary gland thing, and I've shrunk the tumour 20%, and his prolactin levels are back to 585.
Wow.
Proven medically tested.
You know, the sad thing about that really is the hospital never said, what have you done? You know, I mean, instead
Oh, we tell them.
Yeah.
Calls me a secret weapon.
Well, listen, I appreciate you, both of you reading your stories, just incredible. And if you're okay for maybe 5-10 minutes, just to maybe pick somebody out who wants to step forward, who's got something, who wants to step forward, and they don't have to say anything. But if you're happy to do 5 or 10 minutes with anybody who's got something chronic condition. Maybe just one or two people. If you've got a chronic condition that you're aware of, that would be Anyone? Yeah. I don't know who wants to go first. Whoever wants to step up forward first. I can't decide. It's up to you guys.
They're all too humble in this.
I'm not.
Okay. Now, when I do healing, I put some music on that helps take me off and connect. So I'll do that.
Jason, can you move that camera around a bit? Are you okay with that, Pete?
Yeah. If anybody likes the music, it's called Close to Silence by Thomas Otten, who's a French composer. Better than sleeper. Okay, just relax. Visualise golden light coming down circling. Do you mind sitting forward slightly so put my hand on your back? Next.
Well, to be honest, just to be fair to Pete, if it's all right, I would just say like maybe just maybe this and one other, and then maybe Pete give the card out because he's not too far. And if you wanted a healing session, then book in with him just to be fair to you, Pete.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, happy.
Is that okay, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, I've got my hands on your neck. I did have a German lady come in, and I turned to the window to read the notes, and I turned around, she'd taken everything off. She was a big girl.
Maybe last one. Is that okay? And then Pete, you give a card, whatever you want to do, guys.
It's okay, keep closer. hand on your lower back. There you go. Short and sweet.
Thank you very much. Yeah, take a seat. So where can people get in touch with you if they want to come and have some healing?
You can book in on my website, distance or hands-on.
Yeah, and do you want to give them a number?
Yeah, I got some leaflets in the car.
Okay,
as I said.
fantastic.
And I work from Coventry. I use the Spiritualist Church there as a clinic.
Brilliant. So, what do we think? Well, I think it definitely deserves a round of applause. So, when I asked Pete to come, you know, he had no hesitation in coming. He said, yeah, I'd love to come. He didn't ask for nothing, and you know, that's the measure of the man completely, really. You know, and I feel really lucky to kind of speak to you.
Thank you very much.
You know, like in Harry Edwards and that generation of healers, there were maybe half a dozen to a dozen of that calibre, but I can sense in you, you're of that calibre. And so I'm very, very grateful for you to take the time. And I guess when that book comes out, not a lot of people are going to see you for dust, but you as a man, I know you're always going to keep that humility, and I'm very grateful you're taking the time out for us.
It's been
Thank
my
you very
pleasure.
much, Pete.
Absolutely.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just pop that off for me.